All right, guys, we are rolling, and I am here with Susan Garrison. But I knew her as Susan Milne. But even before then, you were Susan
Davis.
Davis. That's right. That's right.
The fifth
And
most common surname in the United States.
most common surname. I mean, it's like Prabhakar, the most common surname.
I know, they're like the
Same thing.
same.
The same
Yeah.
thing, like same amount of syllables, except for one extra one on my last name. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But just so we have a little bit of background on Susan, because she is amazing. Susan was my boss at Sundance when I was working at Sundance. Now, I worked at Sundance from 2005, the winter 2005. Can you believe that?
Wow.
That's so crazy. Yeah, to 2008. And
Wow.
Susan hired me.
I did.
She took a real chance. She was like, oh, what am I going to do? And yep. And
As a bellman.
As a bellman. And I did a couple different jobs at Sundance. I was a snowboarding instructor and I was a bellman. But I did the bellman more because obviously snowboarding stopped after, over, but bellman was all year round. And so got plenty of interaction time with Susan, and I had honestly some of my most fond memories of just, I don't know, high adventure happened as a bellman. Honestly, the amount of it was funny because, as a bellman, you only get paid like X amount of dollars an hour, but the memories I had, $5 an hour, and then
I think that's what it was.
It was like $5 plus the tips that they would people would give you. But the memories that I had with people were astounding, and that would probably take days.
On all spectrums, you were exposed to a lot of things.
Yes. Yeah. And I was exposed to a lot of things. You were exposed to a lot of things. And the thing is, and I have to let everyone know, you are the most level-headed, most amazing boss I've ever had. And that is the absolute truth. Like, I remember thinking after I left Sundance, because I left in 2008 to really, really push acting and go full force on acting, which I'm grateful I did. I was just, telling Susan before this call that after Susan, I'm like, I don't ever want to have another boss again, because she was the best. And
I ruined you.
You ruined me. But yeah, we had some crazy tales, some crazy adventures. So I guess, how did you get involved in working at Sundance?
I started in 1999. I was 2. Just kidding. But I started as a concierge and just kind of worked my way up into eventually the director of lodging. But I believe when I hired you, I was just the front office manager. But I remember hiring you, and I remember you had an incredible work ethic. I remember one time we had an awful storm, and you wore the wrong shoes, and you came in and you were covered in just all the way up to your knees, just soaking wet. And I was like, you got to do something. You got to go home. I don't know what we could do. But you were just you just kept going. And I was like, okay, all right.
You know what? The thing was, I mean, again, crazy adventures. There were times I remember where we were completely understaffed as a bell.
Oh, yeah.
Because we was there's nobody there. And then nothing was going to happen. And then it was the most packed day. And I'm like, call somebody, please. But we would do stuff like that. There were days when, in fact, I don't even know if you were there when this happened. You weren't working that shift. I think you were still manager, but you weren't working that shift. Emily was the front desk, and
she's still there.
She's still there, right? Yeah.
So
she was at the front desk, and it was a very slow night. It was winter time. It was a very slow night, and so there were 2 other bellmen, and they let one go around I don't know 7, because they're nothing's happening. There's nothing happening. And they let another person go at 10 because
famous last words.
Nothing's happening,
Right.
And
it's gonna be fine.
And they were like, Charan, you can go. And then they're like, all right, you know what? We'll just keep you till 11. Just keep you till 11. I'm like, all right, that's fine. All of a sudden, Emily gets a phone call and says, hey, I guess there's like a smoke alarm going off.
Oh yeah.
You remember?
Yeah, the flood.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No,
Oh yeah, I wasn't there.
easy.
I was awakened by it,
Oh yeah.
but I wasn't there. Oh, I didn't realize that was you.
That was me.
Okay.
That was me.
Yeah, that's
So
funny.
I'll have to quickly like say like, so I went up to this to like the lodging, the Pineapple place, and turns out that it wasn't like a little leak, like it wasn't a smoke alarm, it was a fire
It was
alarm.
like a cascade.
Yes, because the guests had left like, I guess, the boiler thing on in their shower, and then the pipe exploded, and
Right.
there was like a flood of water coming from the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I ran inside there to grab all the passports and all the stuff because I was in
Oh
the
my
suite, I was in the
gosh.
bathroom.
Yeah.
The whole thing, like, it took like, I don't know, like an hour and a half or so, and I was running on pure adrenaline. Like I
Right.
moved them to the Mandan unit. I moved the bottom people to another place. We got
Yeah.
fire, like what the fire station involved. And
Yeah.
by the end, I remember thinking like I was like full of so much adrenaline, and it was winter time as well. I was running
Yeah.
through the snow in the winter time,
Yeah.
completely
Soaking wet.
phone, not even a care in the world. I'm like, I just gotta get this done, get this done. And then when I finally got done, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to have hypothermia.
Yeah, for sure.
That was the best. But what were some crazy things that happened to you, like specifically? Because I knew you dealt with so much.
Oh my gosh. It's more so that I feel like my career in hospitality was poising me to either go into politics or relationship mediation.
Okay,
And
yeah,
like you're always just trying to please everyone. And that includes like the employees and everything.
yeah,
And you're just always throwing curveballs, you know? And so but those were definitely like fond memories. Like
yeah,
you still represent one of my most regretful
yeah,
moments in my
yeah.
career.
It's one of my
Um,
favorite moments of my life.
no, I would like to preface this by saying I am not a racist.
No,
Okay, I
you're
am not at all.
you're not you are not a racist at all, which is what
Okay.
makes the story so amazing. Um,
So
so
terrifying.
hey, and you brought it up, so I'm going to run with this. But every morning, the bellman would deliver newspapers to the guests, and so our shift started at 6:30 in the morning,
Yeah,
and we would go grab the newspapers and take it to all the guests. And so I had just done my shift. I just done all.
your newspaper delivery. What happens when you touch a newspaper? Can I just say this?
Sure.
What happens when you touch a newspaper? Keep
Sure.
going.
Your hands get a little dirty, right? Okay. So anyway, I come back and you graciously point out that my hands are quite dirty and that I probably should go wash my hands because I just did newspaper delivery. And now I don't know if I'd wash my hands or not, but I looked at them and I'm like, they're not that dirty. I don't think they're that dirty.
Hold up your
Okay. Okay. All right.
okay.
All right. So she's like, Sharon, you have all these dirt
In your hand.
in your hands. And I'm like,
And
wait,
your
are you talking about,
face.
are you talking about the lines in my hands right now? And you're like, yeah. And I'm like, Susan.
Oh, and no, then I just started
Oh yeah.
backpedaling. Oh,
I
I was
know.
like,
I remember I'm like, this is how God made
this
me.
is my hand.
And oh my gosh, you went so beat red, and I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
you're like apologizing so profusely, and I'm like, I
I
will.
brought it up like days later. I was just like, really, Sharon, I'm really
Yeah,
sorry about the hand
yeah.
comment. Like, I
And I'm
didn't
like,
mean
look,
it. Like,
I
I
will
just,
never forget this moment. Not because I'm upset, but because of how amazingly hilarious this is. You can say this, and I don't know. It still is one of the greatest moments of my life working at Sundance.
well, and little did we know that was good advice that we can all use now because we
Yes,
all should be constantly washing our hands.
absolutely,
So
absolutely. So thank you for preparing me for COVID back in 2006.
that's what I'm here for.
No, it was great. But what else? What I love about this was, I don't know if you remember this memory, but you, again, so level-headed. Just every, and I'm telling you, like you faced everything under the sun. I feel like so many people were constantly going at you and like saying like, what about this and what about that? And you were just kind of managing expectations and like helping people guide people along. And yeah, people were very pleasant and positive, and you were just so calm.
Huh.
And then I spent an afternoon with you, with your kids. And
It
just,
prepared me for motherhood for sure.
yes. And I remember seeing you crack under the pressure of your child running around. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I finally saw Susan break. And it was
She's a
amazing.
human. Yeah, they break me on a daily freaking basis.
Oh man,
Yeah,
it's
for
so great.
sure. For
No,
sure.
but it's great. And I was actually very, very sad when you left Sundance. I think
Yeah.
you left before I left, or something, or I don't know. When did you leave? I forgot.
2 different times. Like
Okay,
I
that's
left to take care of my mom in 2004, and then
okay.
I came back,
Yeah.
and then I left again in 2014.
Okay.
So
No, then maybe you were there, but I just remember one of the things like I was having a hard time with was like of leaving Sundance was like not having you as my boss because
hmm,
you were really great and we had a really good time and I got to grow a lot and it was an awesome experience and I mean truly like one of the things I love about you is like your exemplary service. Like I felt like you always went above and beyond to help people, make people feel better, make people feel happy, and it's awesome. Like it was so
yeah,
great, and that really left an
thank you.
impression on me because I was like, wow, if I ever get into positions of leadership, I want to follow that example of helping people out and being gracious to people.
Thank
Um,
you. You can always go back to being a bellman, Charon. This whole acting thing
but
falls through.
listen,
Like,
I got
you
nothing
were a
going on with
great bellman.
I love being a bellman. It was amazing. It's such good memories. Well, it's funny because like whenever I go back, like someone like Sammy is over there. She's like, "Hey, Sharon,
Yeah, we're still hiring.
we're still hiring." I'm like, I'm sure you guys are." What's funny is they've actually talked about using me for some videos, like
Oh
that
yeah,
itself. Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
I went up to like say hi to like Chad and those guys, and they were like, "Hey, yeah,
Right,
maybe we should use you."
that's
But
awesome.
it was good times. But I kind of want to fast forward past Sundance a little bit and talk a little bit about life right now. Now,
Crazy.
it's craziness that we're living right
Yeah,
now, but it gives us time to ponder and to reflect,
right.
right?
Slowing down, like hugely slowing down. I actually am not, there's a lot to be said about the time right now, but I don't mind it for my little sphere, because I have slowed down and I have been connecting with parts of myself and my children that I didn't have time to before. And
Yeah.
so it's not entirely bad.
No, I think it's actually beautiful. And
Yeah,
you mentioned some stuff to me that I really want to explore, which is about connecting to different parts of yourself.
right,
And I know your mother is a very, very important part of your life, and
right.
you guys had a very, very close relationship, and
Hmm.
she passed away from cancer. And
Right.
I'd like to kind of explore that a little bit because it was such a tough time, I know. And if you're open to sharing, I'd love to like talk a little bit about that experience being with your mom and how that's led to some of the connections that your children were having.
Well, what I've had time to do is like, I journal, I've always journaled, but I've been going back and writing more of the details of those experiences. So my mom and I were incredibly close. There's really not a good way to describe it. She was just that kind of mom that she looked forward to us needing her. Like she was this eloquent, graceful woman, and she got breast cancer. And over a period of 5 years, after having left her twice, it came back for good. And I got to have the experience of going home and taking care of her in North Carolina. And that was bittersweet because as a 27-year-old girl, I did not want to lose my mom at all, and but what I've been exploring in my writing is the connection that we have to people who are gone, and then also sometimes the connection that you have with people who are there, that you know how you'll kind of sometimes have a feeling, you're like, I was just thinking about you, Charan, and
And
I
then,
thought I'd give you a call. And you're like, wait, I was just thinking about you.
yeah.
And you're like, well, how does that happen? How do we sync up, and how do we listen to it? So I've been trying to record all the different times when I feel that, to see what was I doing, like, meaning how was I quiet enough to hear it? Because
Mm.
it's not really something that can be forced, but I've definitely felt it many times.
I love that you said that, because just yesterday I called a friend of mine that I haven't talked to in a while, just to see how she's doing. I just
Right.
hit her up, and she's like, Charan, no joke, I had a dream about you last night.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I'm like, okay, how is it that we're in line and we're syncing with each other? And yeah, let's explore that a little bit. Like, what have you
Well,
discovered?
I mean, one of the things I wrote about in just recently was when mom had this last bout with cancer. Bryce, my husband at the time, and I flew home to North Carolina, because I was like, I need to be with her if this is the end. And I needed to explore if I needed somebody to just tell me the answer, like, is this the end or not? And I went home, and she was fine. We spent 2 weeks there and nothing happened. And I was like, well, I need something definitive if I'm going to shut down my life in Utah and move to North Carolina. And on the last night, I laid in bed just sobbing, because I was like, I don't know. I don't have an answer. She seems okay. I don't know if this is enough cause to close our lives and ask my husband to move his life too and quit our jobs, which were going well at Sundance. And
Was she um was she pretty present? Like, was she
oh,
walking
very.
around and
She was
all that?
completely there.
Yeah.
She was completely there. She was a little slow, but all with it. And I was in the room next to her, and I was just laying there crying, and I heard her call my name. And I was like, what? You know, then I heard her call my name again. And then I got up, and by the time I got in, she called it a third time. And I walked in, and she was dead asleep. She was completely asleep. And I woke her up, and I was like, why did you call my name? And she's like, did I call your name? And I was like, I was laying there crying, trying to see if I should move here. And she woke up, well, she, in her sleep, she called my name. And then she was like, I didn't want to tell you, but we found lumps in my good breast. And it looks like things are going south. And so that was it. I was like, that was what I was waiting for. And that was a life experience. Like, we were both alive and connected. But I'm also exploring, like, how we can connect to people, the connections that we have with people who are on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, not necessarily, I don't have the ability to have conversations or anything, but I've had so many experiences where I'm like, wait, how's my mom talking through you? Those things keep happening. And so I'm like, I'm just trying to listen. And I think, yeah, that's what I've been exploring and writing about. And I've had more experiences through Ruby, mostly, where she's referenced things that my mom said, and they're just too close. That's, how did you know that? You
Yeah.
know?
And your daughter specifically had those experiences. Like, you
Right.
mentioned another one, that's something about your mom or coming to her, or how.
Well, it was, so when my mom was dying, so I did move back home to take care of her. And when she was dying, it was at the very end, she was gone. Like, she was, you know, just in the process of letting her body shut down. And I was up at night with her once, and I was crying, because I was like, I was processing the fact that I hadn't had kids yet, and I was sad that she wasn't ever going to be a part of that with me. And so I was crying with her, and she was laying there with her eyes askewed, completely out of it, and she just popped through, and she touched my cheek, and she just said, I'll hold them, I'll hold them, I'll hold them. And then she was gone again. And those were the last things she ever said. That was it. And it was very touching for me. And I will note that I do have 3 kids, and she said it 3 times. But then fast forward, like, to where Ruby's about 4 years old at this point, and I was talking to Ruby. I like to talk about my mom a lot to try and keep her legacy alive. And we call her the Grammy Angel. She's their Grammy, and she protects this house, and she's, you know, I don't know, I just try to keep her alive. But I was talking to Ruby, and I'm like, I'm just so sad you never got to know her. And I was getting a little emotional, and Ruby just turned to me, and she touched me just the same way, and she goes, I'll hold them, I'll hold them, I'll hold them.
Oh my God.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
I just was like, she's here, like she's present. And I always feel her over my left shoulder. And it's just this thing where I'm like, I want to live quietly enough to let these experiences keep happening.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think it's a beautiful thing. And this whole situation that we're in has given me the silence to
Yes.
try and explore like how these occurrences happen.
I think a big thing that you're mentioning is the silence, right? And
Yeah.
one of my inspirations, I think just so great was Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Oh gosh, yes, yes.
He's just an incredible, incredible man, and he
Right,
ruled the world with kindness,
right.
right? And he taught that. And one of the things that one of his last interviews, um, that he had, when someone asked him like, "Hey, what message would you give to the world?" I think one of the things that he was referring to was he said like, uh, "Listen to the silence." Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that's such a beautiful,
yeah.
beautiful message. Maybe I'm paraphrasing, but it had to do with being silent and being still and
Hmm.
listening to that
And it
still
doesn't
spirit.
necessarily mean like meditating. Like I don't think you have to sit in a dark room and invite this thing in. I just think it's just like noticing it when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of when I was pregnant with Oliver. I had a hard time picking a doctor. Like I had a really hard time. And I went to one doctor, and you have to know when you're pregnant and you start the process over and over again, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of like, okay, sign, do all the paperwork and do your first examination. And I went to one doctor, and it was just like, that's not my doctor. I went to another doctor, it wasn't my doctor, another. And my fourth doctor, his name is Dr. Thomas Judd. And I was like, you're my doctor. And what he got me, it wasn't even this silent moment. It was just, I felt a connection. He
Yeah,
made me laugh. I thought, if there's ever a time for humor, it's during childbirth. So I'm
sure.
like, yeah, we should laugh about this because
Yeah.
this is whatever. And so he ended up, the long story short is, I had a extremely rare thing happen to me that is usually diagnosed in autopsies. Um, and because doctors, it looks like one thing's happening, and so doctors treat that one thing, but what's really happening is this rare thing. It's called an amniotic fluid embolism. And Dr. Judd had seen it one other time, and that woman had passed away. He lost that patient 2 years before, but because he had seen it, he reacted differently when it happened to me, and he saved my life. And there were many things throughout that experience of death, because I did end up dying
Mhm.
for about 6 minutes on and off after giving birth to Oliver, my first child. But the point is that's another occurrence of like, I could feel like there wasn't the right doctor. And then when I found him, he was, and it turned out it was meant to be because he saved my life because he
It,
had seen it.
because it's so interesting because of course, and I've had so many experiences like that as well, where you're just by listening,
Hmm.
you're able to kind of start seeing things and picking up signs and like little like, and I really don't believe in coincidences. Like I think there's so
Right,
many things that are too aligned to make things happen
right,
that if you just can pay attention and kind of follow those signs, you can lead to like something really beautiful and so amazing that you couldn't have done for yourself.
right.
Like think about it this way, like our bodies are incredible and our
Hmm.
heart is beating, our lungs are pumping oxygen, and all these things
Right,
are happening completely without us having to like willfully do those things,
right,
right? They just do those things, and millions of things are going on inside of us that allows us to live. um,
right,
and if those things stop functioning, we would die.
right,
So I keep thinking, okay, if all those things are kind of happening in synchronicity, then we should also realize that there's a lot of things happening outside that if we just pay attention to could
right.
actually lead to some beautiful things. I remember, like, I mean, you're talking about like some significant things about childbirth. This has nothing to do with childbirth because I don't really give birth to a child, but
You,
it has to do with like synchronicity and like just like cool like experiences that I should just pay attention to. I remember 2014. was a bit of a tough year. That was the year that a lot of things had happened. Like first, in the world of acting, I was trying to shift to a different agent, and there was all these weird rules with SAG, that's the Screen Actors Guild that I belong to, saying that because I just had a new contract with my old agent, I could not get a new agent unless I did not work 120 days on a project. So I had to stop acting for 4 months. So that was rough because I was like, that's a big source of my income. And if I can get that, then what am I going to do? And I remember there was this period in, I would say, July-ish, I think, June or July. I was very, very broke. I hardly had any money in my account, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And
should have been a bellman.
I should have been a bellman. I was like, Susan was right. I'm here in California, and I remember I was doing Lyft. I was an independent contractor, and I was doing Lyft, and I had my app on, and for 8 hours, and I gave one ride in 8 hours, and I got like $20 or something. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so embarrassing. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I was panicking that whole day, and I'm like looking for jobs on Craigslist and all this stuff, and nothing was coming up. And I remember kind of praying and being like, oh my gosh, I keep feeling that money is my life. Like that's what gives me, gives me, like lets me thrive. But I actually believe like it's much higher power. It's for me, I believe in God, and so I believe like He allows me to thrive and live. And I'm like, why am I relying so much on money when it's really that force that allows me to live? And so I was like, okay, it's you that's allowing me to live. I don't know what to do, but if you help me out, that would be awesome. And I find that my relationship with God is a very humorous relationship. It's always like full comedy, that's just how I relate. Right. And like his first comment to me as I was saying all this stuff, he's like, all right, cool. Wait till tomorrow. And it was like so clear. And I'm like, geez, that seems ominous. What does that mean? Wait till tomorrow? I said, no, yeah, just wait till tomorrow. I'm like, can you give me like a little sneak peek, like a little something,
like,
he's like, no, I'm not going to. He's like, wait till tomorrow. I'm like, all right. Wow. And so I went to bed, and the next day I woke up and I'm like scrambling again, looking for work. And then I'm like, nope, wait a minute. And I stopped and I said, wait, you told me to wait till today. And so I am, and I just need to trust that you are going to provide. That's it. Yeah. And while I'm saying this prayer, I get a message from a buddy of mine who I haven't spoken to in years. And he's like, dude, what are you doing for work right now? Which I'm like,
you're like, so busy.
I'm like, oh, dude, I'm just so many auditions, and he's like, listen, here's the deal. I have this job and I'm trying to get people temporarily to do this. Like, it's like, I watch commercials and I make sure that they play properly on different browsers. It's like the most easy job I've ever had, Right. And so I'm like, okay. And so he's like, come and do it. It pays great. And in like a couple of weeks, I made $2,000. And then I went straight from there because I did an acting job in Utah, and it happened to be SAG, but it happened to fall on the 120th day. On the 120th day. So I was able to get out of my contract with an old agent, get to my new agent, and still do the job. Like if I had done it the day before, I wouldn't have been able to, Yeah. But it fell on the 120th day. Then I got back from that job, and then I ended up, my friend from Hawaii calls me, he's like, hey, I need you to fly to Hawaii and do this job with me, I'll pay you. And so she flew me out to Hawaii, paid me, did this job. Then I got back, and then I was praying and thinking, man, I feel like these are all great, but like I thought I was supposed to come to LA to act, and if I am, like give me a sign or something. If not, I'll head back. Right as I said that prayer, like an hour later, I get a phone call from HBO, and they're like, "Hey, this is Silicon Valley. We want you to come back for
this little show,
little indie show." Yeah. And then it looked like a national Wendy's commercial. Like it was all like boom, 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 and like my whole the end of the year was so much different than just a couple months earlier. Right. So I keep thinking like there's no way you can say, oh, it's all coincidence. It's all like all, And
no, I agree. Like it's interesting when things have flowed like what you're just describing for me. it's when I feel resistance in a decision, I'm much like, it's not my path. Like, I might not like the path that I'm in. Like when you were sitting there unemployed and terrified, you didn't like that.
No.
But if you can just sit with it for a minute, you'll find it, and then it just kind of flows, you know. And that doesn't mean you get everything you want. You don't get, you know, $1 million or every part you've ever wanted, but just like, you know, I don't know, every time I've just been like resigned to the process,
No.
like what you described, the dominoes just kind of fall into place.
Yeah.
And there's a listening thing that happens there.
It's a listening thing, and like trusting the process and letting things
Yeah.
flow versus.
And you can brand it however you want, and I don't mean that as a derogatory term, it being God or whatever term you put on it, however you pray, however you whatever, it's all still the bigger power, your higher power, whatever it is, you know. But it's a beautiful thing, and that's what I'm trying to tune into, is just like pinpointing where I was in my life when I felt it, because it's out of yourself. It's not me. There's something else happening. Like you just can't deny it.
You can. So I guess writing these things down in the journal has probably been fantastic for you to be able to identify things. What would you say, like right now, like all of us are kind of under shutdown, right? Like we're all locked down and in quarantine.
Yeah.
Which I can't think of anyone in the right mind that would have thought, yep, this is what's going to happen this year. You know, like
no.
it is so surprising, and it took us all like just like wow, no expectations, because 2020 you're thinking, wow, this is the it's a brand new decade, like we're gonna like really do something crazy and wild, and then and this happens. But despite all that, I actually think this is a beautiful time to discover that hey, there's a whole other side of you that might have been dormant or might have been shut down a little bit because you never paid attention to it. So I guess the question is, how would you help people enhance that side of them and to recognize them?
Well, I don't know. One of the things I don't know why this came up, but a lot of good comedy has come out of this quarantine, like some really good comedy and a lot of memes and whatever. One that I actually like and I thought was very thoughtful was it was something like, it's like we've all been sent to our rooms to think about what we've done. You know? Yeah. And so I'm like, I kind of like that, where it's like, okay, I'm forced to now, I don't, you know, my job is diminished significantly. And most people, I mean, we all are in varying levels of this, but I'm like, it's our time to just sit down and go, what was it I really wanted to do? You know, I'm getting to restart. And since we're all in the same boat, we have and it hurts, like it financially hurts. There are people who are very, very lonely through this, and it's bringing up those things. But for me personally, and being the mother of, I call it 3.2 children, because I made 3 and I've got 2 stepkids. So to sit down and go, you know, what is it that I really wanted to do? And I think it's refreshing. And some people might come right out of this and be like, well, I was doing what I wanted to do. And that's great. Good on them, you know? But for me, it's more like, oh, like this, I'm just discovering parts of myself that I didn't have time to. And that's the writing. That's a lot for me. There's a big yoga exploration that I'm ready to get back to. So, but I don't know. How to do it? I'm like, just take advantage of this time. Yeah. You know, we're not going to get it again. If you ask anyone, talk to anyone who's older than you, like think of the oldest person you know, ask them if they've ever experienced anything like this, and they haven't. Nothing's ever happened like this. So I'm like, so it's a strange time, and we should take advantage of it. You know?
Well, what's so interesting is when we were kids, we used to have all these dreams, right? And we used to make believe and play and have fun and all this stuff. But then as we grew up and we went to school, and like expectations were put on us, and we had different ideas placed upon us that we started accepting as our own, even if they weren't our own ideas. we started feeling like, okay, like this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is it. You know, we have to do this. We have to go to here to do this, to do that. Here's the deal. I never really bought into too much of that because I became an actor, you know, and I'm like, I want to do it. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
And it was great. But at the same time, I actually did a deep dive in myself the other day, and I realized I have been living a lie, which is hard to admit, but it's true. And I say that because I don't mean I intentionally lie to people and things like that. But when I say I've been living a lie, it's like I just haven't been completely authentic to myself. And that's all I mean. Like, I mean, sometimes I look at the decisions I've made and think, was this really what I wanted to do? Or was it something that someone else said, we should do this because everyone's doing this? And so many things I've done, and they're not bad, they're good stuff. It's like, it wasn't completely authentic. It wasn't completely authentic. And so I've been like really exploring like what makes me the most authentic. And so the feeling I keep getting is like, hey, I need to have more fun and more joy in my life. And the reason why I say that is because when I'm having fun, I'm joyous, that's when I'm the most authentic. And there's no thinking about it. There's no like, I think I'm authentic. It's like, no, I am.
Right. That's
and
the whole idea.
That's the whole idea, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like taking advantage of this time is the best way to discover, like, hey, what were your dreams as a kid? Like, what were the things that you wanted to do? And then society said, no, that would never work out. Because now's the time to like explore a little bit.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Susan, before I let you go, like last question, which is the topic of joy. What are you doing to have joy right now? And what are you doing to help your kids and Chris have joy?
It's a good question. I would say lowering the bar. You know, that's honestly, because I feel like we wake up and we're like, well, I got this and I've got this and I've got this and I've got this and you know, and I'm like, I don't have it. Like, I kind of start going, what if you wake up and I do appreciate people who have goals. I'm not saying drop goals. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying drop expectation and just kind of wake up and go, this is what I'm going to do today, and start there. Whereas before, I mean, we had to be at work at this time, we had to do this at this time. School dictates a lot for parents, and so with all of that gone, you're just kind of like, well, you just kind of start with no bar, and you build on that. I mean, there's, again, I'm not dropping goals, I'm not dropping effectiveness or anything like that, but it's interesting to just start with like, what do I want to do? And so for me, that brings me a lot of joy because the stress of all of the other things are gone, you know? And so I'm just, that's a gift of this moment that we're all experiencing. I don't want to say enduring. I mean, we're experiencing it.
I love that. Because then you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful sunrise. Like,
it's like, wait, it's not raining today.
Does that happen all the time, you know? And
well, and you base your day more right now on your exterior, like today is a beautiful day in Utah, and I'm like, let's get outside. We can get outside. It's beautiful. It was raining yesterday, so we'll just go outside today. And it's just, I haven't been able to live like this in a long time. And financially, there's crunches everywhere. We're all experiencing that. But that aside, I'm like making the best of it. You know, I'm like, I'm so lucky. Yes, we're climbing the walls, and yes, sibling rivalry is at its all-time high.
I'm sure.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, that's normal. Like, that's authentic too. And so that's what I would say, is just wake up and start there.
Yeah. I love that. Like, I've been living life a lot like that for a while. Like, well, in the sense of like, I've always had goals, because goals give me direction.
You need that.
And that's what you do. You need a direction, or else I become a little lazy. So goals give me direction, so I move forward. But I tend to not have expectations on what the outcome is going to be. I'm just like, if you give me a direction to move forward in. and that's all.
Well, and that's, to be clear, like, it's not the removal of goals, it's the removal of the external influences of those goals. You know, it's that
What do you mean by that?
I'm the one who determines them, you know, and that we're all getting to sink back in and go, well, what did I really want to do?
Yeah.
And start there. So it's a gift, you know.
Yeah. I remember, and I'll end on this. There was I went to a Brigham Young University, and there was this speaker who came in and spoke, and I had like a business class, and he's the founder of Sonic Burgers. Okay. And he was telling me, well, not me, he was telling everybody, I would happen to be there, but he was just talking about like how much he loved flipping burgers for a living, you know?
Yeah.
And he was saying, he's like, look, here's the deal. Like, I remember like my father-in-law at first was like, wait, what are you thinking? You know, cause like you want to like do this for a living. But now he's like, look, I love doing what I love for a living. And he's like, I'm not living anybody else's expectations. I'm doing what I want to do. And he's like, and this isn't being selfish, because he's like, when I'm doing this, it's like, I can shine the brightest and I can be the greatest service to humanity.
Right.
Which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, I think it's like, it's a great time to discover what our dreams always were before the world told us that's just shouldn't be our dream. So
very cool.
Well, Susan, thank you so much. You're the best, and like I can't believe we went on this
Takes one to know journey.
Hey, you know, and all this because of dirty hands. You know, it's my favorite memory of all time.
Oh my gosh!
But yeah,
never live it down.
Yeah, I can't. I never can. That happened like 14 years ago, and it still is so fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you, Susan, for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
You're awesome, and I'll probably share this next week. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Wash your hands.
All right, I will.